I'm gonna count them.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us in our breakout session, Organizing Your Own Teach-In, Students for Social Change. My name is Adriana and I am a senior at LMU.
My name is Gabby Jaco, and I'm a sophomore at LMU.
And my name is Camilla, and I'm a recent graduate from LMU.
And on the slide, we have some information on CSA's Instagram page and email, and my email in case you guys have any questions about our presentation. And this is a picture of our delegation from last year's Teach-In. We all went through the Center for Service and Action, and yeah, this is us in DC. So a bit of an overview of what our presentation is going to look like. First, we're going to start off with assembling a team and then creating a plan and setting goals and how to gather a network of faculty and staff and reaching out to community partners and running a successful teach-in.
So the first and most important step to creating a successful teach-in is assembling your team. So you want to have a group of students from your school go and attend the IFTJ teach-in in order to fully experience what the teach-in has to offer and what a teach-in has to offer in general. And these students should be people that are committed to creating a teach-in after participating in IFTJ. So you want students that are interested in social justice and bringing community work to your own campus and to your own community. And so after attending the IFTJ teach-in, you want to work with these students and reflect on what you all had learned from the teach-in, specifically from the speakers and the various organizations that had attended, as well as from other students from various other campuses that you had been able to interact with. So upon coming up with a plan for your teach-in, you want to think of a theme that your teach-in will have. And so this could be a spin-off of the IFTJ teach-in. What we had done at ours, the 2019 IFTJ teach-in theme was Radical Hope and Prophetic Action. And so we really enjoyed that theme and decided to adjust it for our own campus. And so as you can see, we decided our theme would be transforming hope into action because we value the information that we learned, but we really wanted to put that work and information into action and see the change that we could make from all the information we had gathered. And so the second most important step is creating a plan and setting goals. So like I mentioned, you want to pick a theme for your teach-in and keep it broad but relevant in terms of social justice. And from there, you want to designate roles for each student. And so for our teach-in, we had paired up students for specific roles such as logistics, programming, publicity, finances, and post-event activities. Then we had decided our workshop topics and decide leaders for each topic. And the way we had done this was very specific to what we wanted out of our teach-in. So not only did we want to inform students about specific topics, but we really wanted to tie it with a sort of activity or form of advocacy in order to take action regarding these topics. And so that's where the social change wheel comes into play. We picked our topics that we wanted to discuss within the workshops and tied each topic or workshop to an aspect of the social change wheel. And so topics that we had used for our teach-in were gentrification, immigration, mental health, incarceration, understanding LA politics, faith in action, environmental racism, and even LGBT homelessness. But we tied these topics to an aspect of the wheel. So whether that be LGBT homelessness within community organizing, or how advocacy looks like for immigration and things of that nature. And so from there, we had also prepared resources for students. And this is very important for promoting your teach-in, especially whether it be in an on-campus setting or a virtual setting. So we had created a website using the free platform Weebly, along with flyers and using social media platforms that your campus has. So making sure to spread that through various departments and other organizations and extracurricular groups that you have through your campus.
So something that's super important along with your team is gathering a network of faculty and staff around your campus or your organization. So why should you reach out to other campus departments? First of all, to build awareness. They can share it on their social media, you can share it on yours, and really just get as many people together for that as possible. Co-sponsors can contribute to stipends for guest speakers. It's so important that you can offer stipends to your guest speakers so that they can get paid for sharing their stories with you and educating you. And a co-sponsor gets to put their name on the event and then contribute a little bit of money to that. And then of course, collaborating with other groups can give you a diverse perspective on things that you might need to incorporate in your teach-in. So we got co-sponsorships from the following departments for our teach-in: our Department of Sorority and Fraternity Life, Ethnic and Intercultural Services, Psychology Department, Mission and Ministry, CSJ Center for Reconciliation and Justice, Peace and Justice Studies, LGBT Student Services, and then we were the Center for Service and Action. So all those different organizations put their name on our poster. As you could see earlier, we all kind of collaborated and offered different things. And a good thing to do is to reach out to them, letting them know how being a part of this advocacy teaching can benefit them, and how obviously you're going to promote it across various social media, like we said. So you want to try to get as many organizations as possible in your network so that you have more options for advertising, getting money for your stipends, etc. Now, reaching out to community partners is a super, super important part. This is what makes the teach-in a teach-in. So after you choose your workshop topics, you want to start brainstorming local organizations that align with your themes and ideas, and reach out as early as you can. We started reaching out over 2 months before our teach-in, and cast a wide net. You want to reach out to lots and lots of people. Another thing that's important, you saw this when looking at the wheel earlier, but you want to remember that even though something might make a really cool workshop, it needs to have a purpose. It needs to have something that can send people away with a tool. So some advocacy tool that they can work with. And be prepared to offer stipends, especially historically marginalized people deserve to be compensated for educating us. So some examples are that we had at our teach-in. Youth Justice Coalition, we had a representative named Eduardo Chavez come to speak about the school to prison pipeline. Yvonne from LA Voice and Interfaith Communities United for Justice and Peace. We also had some on-campus groups like our intercultural facilitators come to lead workshops. So tips for picking organizations and reaching out. Like we said, this is a really, really important part of your teach-in. It's what is going to make it come together. So first, is this speaker relevant to people? Is the speaker going to attract a lot of people to come to your workshop specifically? Is it relevant to your specific community? Sometimes a speaker is really awesome and has great things to say, but it's not necessarily something that is going to affect a lot of change on your campus. That's something to think about. Start early, start earlier than you think you're going to need to start, because we can tell you we had to make so many phone calls, call so many people. And as your deadline creeps up, it gets really easy to fall behind. So make sure you start a couple months out because people get busy. And how can this opportunity benefit that organization? You want to give them a reason to come. So say that you're going to be promoting this event across your campus social media, and that way they are going to get a little bit more advertising too. Follow up really, really frequently. Follow up a month before, a week before, a day before. If you're not hearing back from somebody, don't be afraid to send another email. Don't be afraid to be bothersome. People get busy, so make sure you're reaching out very frequently. And don't limit your options. Schedules can be really hectic. So if you just have like one perfect org in your mind, there's a good chance that they're going to be busy, or that maybe they're going to have to drop. So you want to make sure that you have a ton of options and a ton of great orgs and resources to follow up in case something comes up.
So running a successful teach-in, like Abby said, it's really important to check in with your speakers before the event. Make sure they know their audience and timeline. This is very important as someone who struggled a little bit with their organization with some last minute problems. So that is really important to be consistently communicating with the community partners. And it's really important to have each student leader attend their specific workshop to make sure it runs smoothly, to introduce the speaker and make sure like the students are participating in the workshop, and yeah, just to make sure everything runs smoothly. And after the teach-in, make sure you collect the W-9 forms to make sure that all your speakers can get paid, and talk to faculty members or administration to confirm that the payment process went through, and send your speakers thank you notes after your teach-in. It's really important to build a relationship with community partners, and that will definitely make your job easier for next year. It's important to meet all together after the teach-in and reflect on what went well and what you should change for next year. So plan to follow up and share reflections with your team and suggest what can change for next year's teach-in.
So obviously, our teach-in, the way we did it last year, could not happen this year. We were super lucky and we were able to run a great teach-in early in 2020. But it's going to look a lot different this year, and yours likely will too. So what is a teach-in going to look like during COVID-19? Obviously, you have so many options. This teach-in that we are at right now is such a great resource. So take things from this, pre-recorded videos, awesome, wonderful. Or maybe you want to do a live Zoom meeting, some sort of live broadcast where you have people speaking. It's also, I think, important to note that Zoom creates a lot of issues, but it can also create a lot of opportunities. There are people maybe who were out of town, so they couldn't come to this, or maybe they didn't have a car, they didn't have a way to get to our campus. So even though Zoom can be inaccessible in certain ways, it's also a great opportunity to get creative and think of ideas that maybe we wouldn't have been able to do beforehand. Maybe more students can attend because they can just attend from their homes or from their rooms, wherever they are. That's just a really awesome opportunity. So definitely take ideas that you've seen. We've been on Zoom for almost a year now. Take these opportunities, take these ideas that we've been using and having, and get creative with them, because you can still do advocacy via Zoom, but you also just have to think, what is service looking like now? What is hands-on advocacy work looking like now? Because it's not necessarily the same, but utilize technology and utilize your resources, because we're not limited by the same constraints that we're limited to when we are in person. So I would say, think bigger, invite more people. Yeah, you kind of have a lot more opportunities now than you would have had you been on campus. So, okay, and then here's a picture of us. This was our teach-in group at LMU after we ran our teach-in in LA last March. So there's us at the Center for Service and Action. Yeah. So now we're just gonna have a little conversation about what went well with our teach-in, what we wish we'd known a year ago, and kind of what we would have changed had we been doing this in the time of COVID. So yeah, we're just going to talk about that. If either of you have any direct ideas or thoughts on that.
Well, first, it was actually in February, not March. Yes.
All the months blend together. It's 2020, like I couldn't tell you.
2020, crazy year. But so like I said before, it's really important to communicate with your community partners, because you never know what can happen, especially right now. It's crazy times. So really anything can happen last minute. So make sure you are communicating with them and that you have a backup plan, just in case that something does happen last minute.
Another thing that we didn't go too into depth with, we had a keynote speaker for our teach-in as well. Also, that's taken into consideration with the fact that it was in person, but that could be something that your team may be interested in, depending on the format that you want to have your teach-in as. But when choosing a keynote speaker, you want to find someone that aligns with the theme of your teach-in, and also understands what the goal of your teach-in is. Because it really sets the tone for what people are going to get out of your teach-in. And so I think it's really important to inform the speaker about your goals for the teach-in, as well as informing the workshop speakers. It's definitely important to be transparent about what you all want the students to learn, what you want your community to get out of this experience, because a lot of times with community partners, they're used to just coming and just speaking about a certain thing, but not really in terms of the action component that we really wanted in our teach-in. So there's gonna be times where you're just gonna be chatting with your community partner and just thinking of ways that they can alter their usual talks into a way that the students can be more interactive with it, and take certain aspects and apply them to their own lives or their own community. So I think that's also an important thing to keep in mind.
Yeah, I think that brings up a good point about like collaborating as a team, because even though you're doing different workshops in different sections, you ultimately are working on this event together, and there needs to be some cohesion there. So not just like the theme, you know, it's not just like, okay, we're all sticking to this theme, but we worked so much as a team. Every single week we were getting together and like, okay, is your workshop covering, even though we knew specifically what social tools we were supposed to be using, we still wanted to make sure that our workshops aligned in certain ways and didn't repeat things in other ways, because we had our teaching was structured so that people could go to 2 different workshops. We gave them a list to choose from, then they got to go to 2. And we didn't want them to, you know, we wanted them to have 8 unique experiences to choose from, but it still felt like a program that was meant to go together. So collaboration is so important. And again, collaboration in the age of Zoom, it's getting easier, I think, as we go, but it has definitely felt really kind of isolating. So that's something that should ultimately be at the top of your list. Your team members need to be able to collaborate with each other, have fun with each other, and have that common goal of advocacy. I think in terms of like really tangible ideas, because we provided a breakfast, a lunch, that was a sizable chunk of our budget, was providing these like food and things like that, and getting spaces rented and all that. So there are like creative and fun ways. We did a phone bank a while ago, and you got an Uber Eats gift card for coming, and things like that, where you would normally be allocating money to one place or another. Try to make it seem as much of an event as you can. So it's not just another Zoom call that you're on, you know, have everybody eat their lunch together, have a break where people can go into breakout rooms together and talk and reflect, because you don't want to miss out on those parts of community, because it is such a critical part of the teach-in.
Yeah, with that, it's really important to have resources for students to follow up with, kind of part of like that action piece. We want students to leave with some information and kind of ideas of how they can work with that organization, and just be more aware of the problem and educate other people about these things. So like the website that we had like PDF versions of all the flyers, that if when we were physically on campus, we made a folder for every student that had like the resources and like the schedule and everything. But now it's a really good idea to have a website including all of those things, because we can't physically give each other all these great resources and information about the different community partners.
Yeah, a lot of work has been done. A lot of people have done things similar to this. Our website is a great resource for you guys. So even though you want to bring your own ideas to it, the logistical work, a lot has been already done for you. And I think logistics are confusing online, but you don't have to worry about what classroom can we do this in? Is this going to be booked for this? So devote that energy to creating community in creative ways, because that's what's going to make it a really great experience. Any other thoughts on things? I think like, I don't know if we could have like started contacting people earlier, but that was definitely something that gave me a little bit of anxiety, like waiting to get emails back. So if I could have like told myself something, I would have said, email 5 more people than you think you need to, email 5 more orgs than you think you need to, because it'll just ease your stress to know that you've got a couple backups. So I think that's something that's really important. And it's important how to learn to like send those emails too, because I was so intimidated about sending emails to different things, but I think that's an important skill to learn.
Yeah, that timeline from like after IFTJ is really important, especially because some of it falls within our winter break. So that's why it's really important to be committed to making your own advocacy teach-in, because it does take a big chunk of your time And like Gabby said, it does like build a lot of leadership skills and like those like little fears of like sending emails and consistently be communicating with different organizations. It's definitely a huge learning experience that you can then like share with other people. And just like we're doing right now, you guys can give other schools ideas of how to run their own teaching.
Yeah. I mean, again, obviously we didn't do this but I'm kind of excited to see what we end up doing for this year's Teach-In, because it's definitely going to be an adventure. But like I said, there are so many things that we can do that we couldn't necessarily do in person, and just so much time we can devote to other things. I mean, logistics were a huge part of this. We were all running around the day of with clipboards and water bottles trying to figure things out. So to be able to just like have the actual day to check in with people, and I know we've said it over and over, but communication is so key. Communicating with your team, communicating with your speakers, because you know, the night before you could find out they don't know the Zoom link or where to go. And with tech, there's so much confusing stuff that can go wrong. Like, be prepared for the Wi-Fi to cut out, or for your speaker to, you know, not have the same tools and resources that you do. So try to make it as accessible as possible. Remember, not everybody has a computer and stable Wi-Fi at their home, so they may need some extra time or help to figure that out. Not everybody wants to have their camera on, stuff like that. But these are all decisions that, you know, do we want people to have their mics on so we can encourage a conversation? How are we going to make people feel comfortable in Zoom, which is like one of the most awkward platforms, which can be such an awkward platform. I mean, like, you know, from sitting in class, like what tools can you pick up from this Teach-In? So not just from this session, but from every session you go to, like what little tools have people been doing that you think could make your Teach-In just as close to being in person as possible?
Great. And I think with that, we wish you all the best of luck with planning your own Teach-In. And we hope this resource has been very helpful for you all. And if you do have any questions or want any more details about how we planned our own Teach-In, you can most definitely contact CSA through their email or Adriana through her email, and definitely check out our Instagram page as well, where we put on a lot of advocacy information and events that we put on campus. So perhaps that could inspire you as well. But yeah, thank you all so much for your time and checking out our breakout session.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.